Visakha, known as the City of Destiny, is spread on the coast of Bay of Bengal in Andhra Pradesh. Being an abode of natural beauty, this city attracts a large number of tourists and is developing by leaps and bounds. Andhra University, which gained national prominence with its unique style of offering higher education, is situated in this city.
Hello everyone. Good evening to every viewer of our channel. Thank you very much for staying tuned on this Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Thank you very much. First of all, I thank Professor PVGD Prasad Reddy Garu, our Honorable Vice Chancellor Garu, for launching this technical tech talk platform and being successfully run since 2 months. And I also thank Professor Perry Srinivasarao Garu, our principal, AA College of Engineering, for supporting us and helping us in shaping this wonderful platform where every student is getting benefited through the technical talks by experts and various people who are successful in their lives. As initiated by AU College of Engineering, Visakhapatnam, a series of tech talks are being hosted every day at 7 p.m. by the General Interest Topics Avenue, which is also known as G.I.T.A. Uh, G.I.T.A provides an online platform to the student fraternity to gain general knowledge of the student domain and also helps in enriching their technical skills and technical knowledge. It also supports university students and colleges as well. G.I.T.A includes uh, technical by domain experts, faculty by scholars to share their views and expertise with the budding engineers of India and entrepreneurs of India. In this connection, Gita, a series of tech talks are being streamed through our YouTube channel at 7 p.m. on every Sunday in the same YouTube channel. Yeah, and I hope today's session will be a great informative session and you all will be getting benefited through this wonderful session. I thank every viewer of this channel for giving such an immense support and supporting us since 2 months. And I hope you will be supporting us to do more and more tech talks like this as well. Now I hand over the screen to today's anchor, whose name is Prerna. Prerna, now the screen is yours.
Thank you, Vinil. That's a great introduction about Gita. As he said, Gita is a great platform to gain much knowledge and helps you to create your own ideas. So now I would like to introduce our today's speaker, Sir Akshat Mohite, sir. He is a scientist astronaut candidate trainee for Project Posium supported by Flight Opportunities NASA. He has received the NASA Kennedy Space Center pin from astronaut Robert Cabana and by the hands of Dr. Ravi Margasahayam, sir, who is NASA Solar System Ambassador and the one who launched Kalpana Chawla and 700 plus astronauts to ISS. He has been selected for astronaut training in Iceland by Space Nations. This mission is supported by NASA. Two of his research papers got selected in the world's biggest aeronautical society, International Aeronautical Federation, and hence he was invited for paper presentation in America and Dubai. More than five of his research papers have been published in his field. His research papers were selected at NASA Ames Space Settlement Contest 2018 and 2019, which is the reason he was invited to visit Washington and Los Angeles to present his paper. He has been working for the welfare of our planet and representing India at international level. So this is all about Akshat Mohit, sir. Now I request all the viewers to post your questions in the comment section. Sir will answer to your questions at the end of the session. So I request everyone to stay tuned till the end. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Vinil.
Thank you, Prerna. That was a nice introduction about today's speaker, and I hope this session will be a great informative session. So, everyone, please stay tuned and please post your views and even your questions in the live chat. I will go at the right side of the screen, so that we'll be answering all your questions and queries at the end. Now, I hand over the session to today's speaker, Akshat Mohit. Now the screen is yours.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Firstly, good evening, and thank you for Geeta to having me here. I'll just share my screen. Yeah, I hope the screen is visible, Vinil. The screen is visible, right?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Akshat Mohite, scientist astronaut candidate trainee at Project Possum, supported with Flight Opportunities NASA, and also the panel speaker for a couple of conferences that are in collaboration with NASA. Newly, I can say it's been almost a year that I am the president for National Space Society, USA, Mumbai. So I'll be talking over all of these portions in upcoming things. So I would directly jump on to one of the major question when I give some webinar or some seminar. It is like how to get into NASA or some other space agency. So everyone has this question that I want to become an astronaut, but how and from where? So the most common question, how to get into NASA? You require these five things to get into NASA or any other space agency, so which is well known by everyone. That is the citizenship. If you want to get into NASA, you need to be a US citizen. If you want to get into ISRO, you need to be the Indian citizen. Second is the qualification. Now the qualification part is mostly for becoming an astronaut. So if you want to become an astronaut, you need to have a master's degree or your doctorate in astronautics or some STEM field, which can qualify you to be useful once you're up there at International Space Station. For speaking about NASA, you need to have minimum of your master's degree. Third point is researches. So when you're working in this space industry or any science industry, I can tell you, researches is one of the most important criteria that is needed. So you need to write on research papers. All that you learn, you need to practically implement it and put it down on paper and publish it in journals or conferences. So on the very first slide that you saw, I was the panel speaker for International Space Development Conference, that is via NSS and NASA, or for International Astronautical Congress. What we do there is we publish our papers in conferences. So you have to present your paper to various scientists and various experts in the said field. Next part comes as creative thinking. So this is somehow related to the third point itself. If you want to write a research paper, the very first question that you might be having is, how should I write a research paper, or how should I even begin writing a paper? So it is very simple. I can say you need to have this creative thinking ability wherein you can practically understand what is the question statement. So what do I mean by question statement is a statement which you need to solve, and you solve it by writing a paper. For example, my very first research paper was on space development. How can 20,000 people live in space, such as International Space Station, which is modified? So I thought of this question statement, and I began solving this question statement, started learning more about it, implementing more about it. I came across various different technologies. So that is one of the part in creative thinking. Next comes is critical problem solving. To explain this point, I would rather give an example. Like, just a second. Yeah. So when I was in Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida, I met astronaut Winston Scott, and he was basically telling me about the critical problem solving. It is like when he was in one of his mission, he was there to deploy a satellite, and the satellite kind of malfunctioned and went around 50 meters above the orbit. So this was the problem, and at that time there were no unplanned spacewalks done by NASA earlier. So he initiated the very first unplanned spacewalk and pulled down the satellite by 50 meters. So just imagine pulling down a satellite size of a 3-story building by 50 meters. that too risking your life, because even one edge of the satellite hits your spacesuit and you might probably die. So that comes under critical problem solving. So if you have these five most important abilities, you can qualify to become an astronaut or even join NASA, ISRO, JAXA, or any other space agency. So you require these five things. Now, talking about the project that I am associated with, Project Possum. So, what Possum means is Polar Suborbital Science in Upper Mesosphere. What we do is, okay, the clouds that you see up in the sky are called stratospheric clouds. And what we research are about noctilucent clouds, the clouds present in the mesosphere, like the clouds which are around 80 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Our mission is basically it is called a noctilucent cloud tomography mission, wherein noctilucent clouds are the clouds that are present in the mesosphere, and tomography is clicking the pictures of those clouds by practically going ascending up till that place and clicking pictures using a red cam and coming back. So the red cam, we're talking about the red cam, it has 1,000 frames per second, so we get enough data set to study and examine what is the constituency of the noctilucent clouds. Um, I can say Project Possum somewhere follows the flight trajectory that is similar to Virgin Galactic. Like we ascend up into the stage, we have our MECO phase where that is called the main engine cutoff, and once you go under the MECO stage, you ascend up with the same velocity. You have your tomography mission going on, and then you come back to Earth using the gravity. Now, as soon as I got selected as an astronaut trainee, I was around 17 years old. I had to do my scuba diver's license from PADI that I did, and then came the hypoxia training. So I completed my hypoxia from Southern Aeromedical Institute, SAMI, that is in Melbourne, USA. Hypoxia is a condition wherein your body or a part of your body is deprived of oxygen. So we were practically put up inside a chamber which had decreasing pressure to simulate higher altitudes, and we were just checking what are the what we say symptoms of inadequate oxygen supply in your body. I had like pretty much less symptoms, and my oxygen level dropped down to around 85% after I was at 25,000 feet. So that was a pretty good result. So that is me sitting inside the hypoxic chamber and doing my hypoxia training. Talking about layers of atmosphere. So as you can see here, there is this noctilucent cloud that is up at 80 kilometers, and that's where is our research area. So it's above the mesosphere, and that no sounding rocket can practically reach to that region. So you have to personally, reach up there using an aircraft or a jet and click the tomography mission, nor can you study it from the International Space Station because noctilucent clouds are kind of opaque and you can't see through them. So if you want to study them, you need to be up there. Just a quick question to understand that everyone's attentive. Why is mesosphere cooler in summers than in winters? I'll just come here. If you see the redshift line, that is the temperature scale. If you see that mesosphere is at like minus 80 degrees centigrade in the summertime. So why is that? Anyone who can answer it? I'm just checking the comment section. Hmm. Let's see. I'll just wait for like a minute or two and check if someone is able to answer this question. The question was, why is mesosphere cooler in summers than in winters? Even professors, if they are viewing the stream, they can answer this question as well. Hmm, okay, that's weird. Like, no one? Okay, so I don't see any answers. So what I'll do is I'll answer the question. It is basically because of the expansion of gases. So in summers, there's a precipitation process that goes on inside the plants and everything. So because of the expansion of gases, you have faced this cooler in summers. So it probably goes up to minus 80 degrees centigrades in mesosphere. So why I'm saying it is because of my project Possum. So we basically tend to carry out our missions in the winter time, wherein it is pretty much warm up there. A part of my astronaut training also involved the G-force training. So this is my G-force chart wherein I was sitting in an extra 300L and I had to pull up to around 4 Gs. So on paper, I pulled up around 4 Gs, but practically I was pulling up to 6 Gs in an extra 300L jet, jet. So as you can see, I had like 360-degree maneuvers that were the horizontal maneuvers. Then I made a 360-degree vertical maneuver, ended up with a 4G, and went into the microgravity, that is the 0G. So I did this twice, going on to the 4G and to the 0G. Then entered the GY, then into the negative Gs, I pulled up like minus 1G and minus 2G at GZ, and landed at minus GX. Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, that I am the president for National Space Society. So, what does National Space Society do? Is National Space Society is a US-based organization wherein we try to spread the awareness in STEM and space fields, and we try to motivate students by giving lectures, talks, and also giving opportunities. So, if you're anywhere interested in the space industry, do check out National Space Society. Coming over the astronaut part. So people ask me what are the qualifications, or more than qualification, what are the certifications do you require to become an astronaut? Personally, I have done my scuba diver's license. I got my DGCA certification. That is an Indian medical certification you need to do before flying. So it is a DGCA class 2 certification, or instead of that, you can also have like FAA class 2 certification, class 3 certification. Instead of that, I had to take my hypoxic chamber training, which I got certified by the Southern Aeromedical Institute. I got my G-force training. Now, in the G-force training, you also have an option to use the G-suit to, reduce the impact of G-force on your body. But then, if you want to get certified for G-force, then you practically don't use the G-suits. Again, if you want to be an astronaut, you need to be able to fly different kinds of jets and aircraft. So you need to log around 4,000 hours of flying time for you, which you require the flying license, which you can be like the PPL or SPL. Probably the student pilot license works as well. I would like to keep this talk a lot more interactive because becoming an astronaut is something that cannot be taught theoretically. But if you have any questions, do let me know on the same thing. I'm at the comment section right now, so push up your comments and your questions. I'll be glad to answer those. Winnie, you can ask them to ask questions.
Yes, Akshat. But right now, I guess we can go with the slides, and at the last, I guess the people will be asking the questions.
Um, just a second. Okay, so there are many opportunities that are in the Project Possum field. So I'll just stop screening, sharing my screen, or I'll take you to the Project Possum slide. Yeah. So Project Possum is basically you can call it a citizen science project. Like I just received a question in the personal chat. This is a project wherein you can yourself get involved as a trainee for citizen science programs such as the geographic or the IGRIS training programs. Herein, you will be trained to become an astronaut by in collaboration with the IIAS or International Astronautics Wing of USA. And there are a couple of opportunities that you can get involved as well. So, if you speak about the research programs, there are a couple of conferences that you should attend. As I mentioned, the top five skills that you require, the research skill. There is this International Astronautical Congress conference coming up in Dubai, wherein you can practically present your paper. Okay, my screen is not being shared. Okay, no worries. So you can practically get involved in the IAC conference or into the GLEX conference in 2021, which is in Russia. Also, an incident I would like to share. So there are questions coming up regarding my incidents. So I was on Times Network, an interview on Times Network, wherein Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma and I were speaking about the Chandrayaan 2 mission and about the technicalities about the Chandrayaan 2 mission. Meanwhile, we went up to the Gaganyaan mission, which India is planning to launch astronauts, and the astronauts are practically training up in Russia. He also talked about me being the first Indian going to space. So talking about Indians going to space, I practically see the plans are pretty much strong, and they're heading up in a really good manner. If you want to become an astronaut from India, you must practically opt in for somewhere like NDA and get into the fighter pilot section so that ISRO pulls you up as a astronaut. Talking about what do astronauts do? So you have to follow a pattern, daily pattern of your exercise, of your diet, and you need to be mentally strong. So there are a couple of things that astronauts have to follow, mostly into the routine, as I can say, like the cardiac exercise and everything. And most importantly, be away from all the things that might harm the astronautic skills. So, what motivates you to become an astronaut? Talking about my journey, how I reached this, scientist astronaut thing. When I was in second grade, I was watching a couple of movies which inspired me to become a scientist. And I had this in my mind since my second grade that someday I'll become a scientist. I never knew it will be so soon. In my eighth grade, I started learning more about physics and more about astrophysics. I started writing papers, started discovering more opportunities up there in space. I wrote my very first research paper when I was in my 11th grade. That was on space settlement, as I earlier mentioned, that how can 20,000 people live up there in space? I wrote a black book over it and I couriered it to NASA Ames Research Center. And of course, I received a reply from them within like 2 months. And I was invited to the International Space Development Conference, wherein I had to present my research paper to the scientists and the business community. Once I was done with that, I started researching more over the re-entry of space vehicles or my space shape memory ceramics or material science in the sectors of aerogel and aerosol, with which I got along with the Project Possum, that was Polar Suborbital Science in Upper Mesosphere, as I mentioned. Once I got into Project Possum, I made many more connections. I went into the MDRS mission, that is Mars Desert Research Station. And with MDRS, I was researching for how can you farm in Mars, that was using hydroponics as a technology based product. After that, I started working more over the lunar based settlements and every such thing. Meanwhile, I was also a part of NSS because of the International Space Development Conference, and I brought National Space Society here in Mumbai. Now that it was like I brought it here in 2019, and we inaugurated it with the hands of Dr. Ravi Margus Sahayam, who is the Solar System Ambassador at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and who has also launched Kalpana Chawla and 700 other astronauts to space. So still things continuing, and I had this opportunity wherein I got along with Space Nation, that is again a NASA supported mission. And through Space Nation, now I'm an analog astronaut for in Iceland. Like my training is going to be in Iceland, and this is morely focused towards the lunar astronaut training program. We're ascending up, and I'm trying to bring new opportunities here for Indian students and Indian space enthusiasts, of course. So okay, next question is how you manage both astronaut activities and your studies as well. Of course, it is one of the most difficult things that I can say because you need to give. It's all about time management, wherein you have to give some amount of time to your researches, to your astronaut training and everything. Meanwhile, you have. I know I had like in my daytime, I used to personally study, do my all coursework and everything, and in the nighttime, I used to sit for researches. During this time span, I could practically sleep for less than like 3 hours or 4 hours a day. But I had a vision, I had an aim, and most importantly, I was curious enough to understand what's up there and what's how would it look once I'm up in space. So I started working towards it. Of course, there were many things that I had to leave, such as the social media and distractions. And yeah, focus and curiosity was one of the most important things. What are your future plans? My future plans are mostly related to exploration missions, wherein I want to explore the universe as a space scientist that I am working towards. I'm mostly fascinated towards the Kepler 452b or the Kepler series of planets and how can we reach there. So practically we know that is impossible to reach the Kepler, but then I have been researching over antimatter, and one of my CERN internships kind of helped me research more about it. So I've been applying to it since a long time. So yeah, I have been more fascinated towards the antimatter sector because antimatter can probably take an astronaut to the Kepler series planets in couple like 30 years or so. um what are the plans of ISRO to send astronauts to space? So currently, we are not planning to send astronauts onto some planet or onto some international space station. Practically, like I heard that ISRO was building up their own space station before 2022 or 2023. So I believe if ISRO is still holding up with the deadlines, then the astronauts that are being sent to space might as well go to the Indian space station. It's just a probability, nothing declared. I'm just thinking of this. Is it difficult to become an astronaut? Talking about the difficulty level, it is, more towards the curiosity sector. I will again take you to, because practically today I am like world's second youngest scientist astronaut candidate at Project Possum and Asia's youngest scientist astronaut candidate. So that took place because I was curious enough, because I knew I had a vision and a goal to achieve. So if you're curious enough to do something, you can become an astronaut. Now, talking over the physical difficulties, you must be fit enough to qualify to become an astronaut, because when you have your DGCA exams, you go under various tests like your blood test, eye test, and many different kinds of medical tests, and then you get your DGCA certificate. One more question I would like to answer from my end is are spectacles, like the specs that you wear, fine if you want to become an astronaut? So yeah, if you have a 20/20 vision, then you can apply for becoming an astronaut, and it's not necessary that you need not have specs or any such thing. Most importantly, your physical fitness matters a lot. Now, scuba diving and such sports support you physically in your oxygen breathing capacity and oxygen holding capacity, because in your hypoxic test, that is the hypoxia chamber exam, this is one of the most important factor that is considered. If your oxygen level somewhere goes below like 60 or 75%, then you faint, or you might also end up in some hospital. So that is one of the most important thing. What are the various difficulties you face for being an astronaut? Difficulties that I personally faced are, the very first one I would say is the age, because age was somewhere a bar or a stoppage that I faced. But then, of course, as I told you, research papers, connections. I always say that networking and making connections help you a lot in the space industry. So I made really good connections via conferences, attending conferences, presenting my papers, my ideas relating to the space exploration. So yeah, I faced problems due to the age. Otherwise, there was just I had to maintain my physical fitness and my 20/20 vision, nothing else. What are the different opportunities for youngsters around the world which are open to become an astronaut? There are various opportunities, I can tell you. Like if you're just talking about opportunities, there are various private companies that go into the astronaut training programs, which are not completely collaborated with any space agency, but those will give you an experience of what astronaut trains like. So you might have your spacesuit donning, doffing training, your G-force training via a centrifuge and not a aircraft, obviously. And then you also have certain space camps such as the Alabama Huntsville Space Camp, or you can also go ahead with the Lunaris mission that is in Iceland. So these opportunities will probably, explore more of your astronaut part. Hmm. So, how to become an astrobiologist? So, to become an astrobiologist, you need to have your degree firstly in biology, and you can consider doing your PhD in astrobiology itself. And then you just need to get into some private space agency or some national space agency such as ISRO or NASA, and you can, call yourself as astrobiologist. The most important part here is you need to have your research papers. Again, like I would like to sum up everything in one part. That is, you should be able to implement whatever you learn, that is where everything stops. And that's where everything opens up for you practically. Why all the space agency do not send astronauts? Okay. Sending astronauts is a tedious and a very expensive task, I can tell you, because when you're sending in one astronaut or three astronauts, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are working behind it to make sure that the astronaut is safe. So there are various technologies that are involved, various checks that are involved, and then you need to take the aircraft. So it involves taking the aircraft from the VAB to the launch pad 39B. So there are various difficulties that are faced, which is the reason there are only few agencies that have been successful in sending an astronaut. What is the difference between the orange and white suits of NASA? So basically, there are like EVA and IVA suit, that is an extravehicular activity suit and intravehicular activity suits. So the intravehicular activity suits are basically one inside the space station if you're carrying something inside the space station, and the extravehicular activity suit while you're doing a spacewalk, such as a tethered or an untethered spacewalk, maybe repairing or upgrading some systems in the International Space Station. Hmm. Okay. How did SpaceX manage to make world's lightest spacesuit? So here is the game. I can tell you more about the material science, because there are many various kinds of materials that you need to take in consideration, such as one of my research paper was based on aerogel. Aerogel is a material that can float over a flame of light, as well as it can lift up a car. So there are many materials which are resistive to radiation, as well as those are light. So using material science, SpaceX was really able to create world's lightest spacesuit, which we also saw in the launch. What is your view about Mars colonization? So Mars colonization is a thing which is pretty much uncertain for me, I can tell you, because reaching to Mars is going to take you around months, 9 months of time span. And reaching there without any radiation protection that we currently don't have, you might probably end up losing almost 90% of your body mass. So the very first question before talking about Mars colonization comes is, how are you going to prevent the radiations? So even if you are able to um, you know, prevent the radiations, then you go on to Mars, then you need to explore new resources or any other source wherein you can prevent the radiations over Mars. And the landing part comes as one of the biggest, what we say, difficulty because of the thin atmosphere. Right now, we have the Perseverance landing, which we all are looking ahead to on 18th February, which might explore more about the Martian atmosphere or the colonization of Mars. Right now, what NASA is planning to do is sending in astronauts to Moon, that is the Artemis mission, and then heading up to the Martian colonization by 2032. Do you think there is life beyond Earth? Of course, like this is a very common question, I can tell you, but there's only a single answer that I always have in my mind for this question. That is, we can't consider ourselves to be the smartest species in whole of the universe, like that I can call as overconfidence. So for sure, there must be some of the living species that we are planning, that might have discovered us already, but we don't know. What I personally think is, if you go around different galaxies, there are supposed to be planets like Earth that we already know. So yeah, there are going to be various kinds of living species and organisms. Now that Voyager has entered the interstellar space, we can also hope to explore more of it. So yeah, I would say, yeah, I do think there is life beyond Earth as well. Do astronauts have different categories based on which they will be prioritized? It's not about category, I would say. So astronauts, it's more about the physical fitness and the readiness level of the astronaut. So the question was, do astronauts have different categories based on which they would be prioritized to be sent to space? So I would say there are around 12 astronauts that are selected every time there is an astronaut selection process that's been going on. But then not all of those 12 go to the space. Who go to the space are, it depends on the readiness level of the astronaut, the training that they've been going through. So yeah, most of the time what happens is the astronauts that are selected out of those 12, mostly 3 or 4 might go up to space, and the other work as an analog astronaut, taking up live missions here And as I gave the example of Winston Scott, the critical problem solving example, they had to spin a real sized satellite in the NBL, that is Neutral Buoyancy Laboratories, and the astronauts that were selected out of those 12, those carried out this analog mission. They rotated the satellite at the same speed, tried to hold it at different pace, and then they pulled it down by 50 meters. So they had various failures, various trials, out of which one succeeded, and that was the same thing that was carried out in space. So yeah, it does not depend on some category. It is just based on the readiness level of astronaut. So yeah, difficulties. Okay, before answering this question, everyone has this question that while launching of an astronaut, astronauts practically face more than 8 Gs, more than 9 Gs, and people also come up to me and say that Neil Armstrong faced around 11 Gs, but that was past. Now the technology has improved, and an astronaut does not face more than 3 or 4 Gs while launching into space. So in Russia, Roscosmos still has this problem of the G force while launching. They take mostly up to 5 or 6 Gs still while launching. But if you talk about NASA technologies, the astronauts don't take more than 2 or 3 Gs on their body while launching. Why is it difficult to do a spacewalk? Okay, one of the biggest difficulty is, I forgot the term, is like you don't know if you're standing upright or you're standing upside down, so you kind of tend to faint or something like this is one of the most common difficulty which is faced during the training. Of course, once the astronaut is trained, this is waived off. Other things are, it's a risky play mission wherein if it's an untethered mission wherein you don't aren't tethered with the International Space Station, you might end up with your life because space does not give you a second chance. So yeah, that's the reason spacewalks are never unplanned, and NASA has done pretty less unplanned spacewalks. One of them was done by Winston Scott himself, and that was the very first unplanned spacewalk. What are different experiments carried out at in the ISS? So International Space Station carries out multiple microgravity experiments, and mostly researching over astrobiology, like what we say organisms. They're searching over more organisms and microgravity. How do different substances what are the properties of different substances in microgravity, how do they appear in microgravity. So these are various kinds of experiments that are going on right now. Talking about Gaganyaan mission, okay, this is one of the question. So Gaganyaan mission is a crewed mission wherein we are planning to send a capsule around 400 kilometers above the Earth's surface with the Indian astronauts that are currently training in Russia, and we are just planning to send them like around 400 missions for up to 7 days, and there are around 3 or 4 astronauts that are going to go from Gaganyaan. So yeah, I'm looking ahead to the Gaganyaan mission because this is going to be the very first Indian astronaut mission. Ah, okay. Why if Yeah, I answered this question, why every space agency does not send an astronaut. Any other questions, viewers? I'm waiting for the questions. Sorry, there seemed to be some malfunction. Yeah, I'll pull up the questions.
Yes, so we'll go with the questions right now. So, as said, we don't have many questions right now. So it was actually great talking to you, Mohit. And so, like, viewers were having various questions about many people, like youngsters of India, have various things about. Everyone want to become an astronaut, but they are not able to find the opportunities around India and around the world as well. But you have succeeded in finding one of the opportunity, and you became the world's youngest astronaut trainee. So why not speak about that experience, and how was your whole experience? How was your whole journey since the age of 15, and how did you achieve going up to this stage as well, like being the only youngest astronaut in India?
Yeah, as I said about it earlier, I started my journey when I was in eighth, and I wrote research papers, I made connections, I attended conferences. Talking about my astronaut experience, of course, like astronaut training experience, of course, it was fascinating because as soon as I ended up at Project Awesome, I went up to Florida, wherein we had this G-force training. So in my G-force training, I walked up to, the what we say the area where we were like the first facility. I was seeing this beautiful aircraft that was this Expo 300L, and as I had never practically seen a two-seater aircraft before that, I was pretty much amused watching it. And I had a call from behind that I should get into the aircraft. I got into the aircraft, and that was basic. I received this, what we say, my G-force letter that I had in my presentation, and they said that we are going to have this training module today. We started up with the flight, and it was that the trainer started taking up 360-degree manuals, pulling up 2Gs, 3Gs, 4Gs. The very first experience of G-Force, it was pretty good. I pulled up 4Gs in the very first time, then 6Gs, and I ended up with a maximum of 7Gs. And then I had multiple opportunities flying. So, yeah, my overall astronaut experience was more of fascinating, I can tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, what is the process of astronauts sending to space? Actually, while they are sitting in the capsule, and then they'll be launched in the rocket, and they'll be going into the low Earth orbit. And what is the next process so that they'll be like in a stationary orbit, and then they can do their experiments?
Yes, or you just have to change the orbits with a couple of blasts that we call the Hoffman's transfer of orbit. That yeah, once we have this Hoffman's transfer of orbit, the International Space Station is revolving around the Earth. You send an astronaut into space. You have to change the orbit. You need to rotate the your capsule by 360 degrees so that you are facing to the docking port of your International Space Station, and once you're into the orbit of ISS, you practically ascend forward, and then you're docked with the ISS.
So what are the difficulties faced during the re-entry? Because there were many missions which were like collapsed during the re-entry mission. Like even taking the Kalpana Chawla's ma'am's case, we can also say that during the circling the orbit of the Earth, there might be some difficulties faced. So what is your think about that?
Kalpana Chawla ma'am incident, it was like there was a very small hole that was present, which is the reason the moisture kind of entered. And this is the reason Project Possum is here, because the problems that are faced in re-entry are, I can say, 40% of them are into this noctilucent cloud part, because these are so opaque that you can't practically see through them. And that's the reason we are more towards the researches of how are these formed and what are, how can we tackle these problems. So there is also a question. Do you think, sir, I'm studying IT to become an astronaut? What I have to do? So, Sai, you're studying information technology. So basically, you just need to complete your bachelor's. You need to complete your master's if possible in USA if you want to get into NASA, and if you want to get as an Ramnot in the ISRO, then you need to approach towards the NDA, because currently, ISRO is only taking up fighter pilots to become an astronaut. So yeah, you just need to complete your master's in the STEM field that you're currently doing, and then you can apply for any astronaut program that is available. And also, Jim Bridenstine once said that why not unite the space sector of not only one country, but let's unite it together as a globe. So if that takes place, then you can practically apply to any astronaut program that's taking place.
Yeah, while during the re-entry, there will be a lot of temperature faced by the like astronauts inside the capsule. Mainly while the capsule and re-entering through the common line, there is a lot of like temperature facing by the capsule, and it is actually lessened by the thermal shielding on the like capsule. But how far it is more hotter than the Earth's temperature, and how astronauts actually face that much use temperature.
Basically, I couldn't hear you well, but as much as I understood, you were talking about the re-entry temperature. So basically, while re-entering, the capsule has this, material which is a heat shield, we can say. I was also researching over the shape memory ceramics and artificial intelligence for the heat shields, so that the astronauts do not face a lot of temperature rise. But I can see it, it is really eminent and a lot more than that you practically face. It's all, I can say that is practically manageable because of the material science progress that we have been doing currently. Earlier, it was a problem, as I said, even the G force during the launch was a problem in the earlier technologies. But now we have been solving the problems as astronauts are the one who we work for as engineers at the current moment. We just need to ease the process of launching and landing for them. So the very first technologies that were advanced was the launching and the re-entry. So yeah, now it is pretty easy.
What are the different types of things undergone in the incubation period? Before launching, there is an incubation period where the astronauts are kept in a room where no microbes and
Isolation.
all are there, right? So, tell a brief about it.
Yeah, so basically, we follow this incubation period only so that the astronauts do not carry any of the, viruses or any disease while they're going up in space. So they are kept into the isolation that we call it, the isolation period. And it is just to maintain the astronauts' health and safety. So what they do is they basically are given their regular exercises, the diet that they follow, and they're kept away from the human, like the normal people, so that they don't catch any infection. So it is just for the safety and safety for the mission and for the crew.
What are the various measures taken in the white room before they're getting into the capsule? There is a white room, right? So in the white room, there are some medical checkups, and there are some measures which are taken by the crew. I mean, the staff itself to maintain the astronauts are clean. What are the actual measures
As I
and
said, it is just the same thing that I told you about the isolation period. It is just, because once you're out of the isolation period, you practically end up the astronaut van. And from that astronaut van, you're taken to the white room and then you go into the capsule. So it is just to make sure that you are not infected with anything and you're practically, able to go to space without any infection. So it's just a health checkup that takes place and physical fitness then. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
what are the major training agencies around the world? Like astronauts are also being sent to Russia, and I think NASA is there. Is there any other training centers where astronauts can train around the world?
Yeah, so it is like as I told you that I was going for the space nation. So it is like you are trained more like I can call it a survival mission as well. So in our mission that is related to the Iceland mission, we are taken up to Iceland for around 6 to 7 days, living in igloos, using those all equipments and space suits that the astronauts will use. So it is called as an analog mission. So that is one part of the training. Other than that, you have NBL laboratory, that is the neutral buoyancy laboratory, wherein you have the ICRIS training and the sea rescue training. So once you're landing, you land basically the capsule lands on water. So that is one of the part of training. So there are various such trainings, such as neutral buoyancy laboratory training. Then you have the cycle training. You are rotated for G forces into a centrifuge machine. So yeah.
What do you think about New Space India? So recently, said by our Indian government, they have given privatization sectors the opportunity to use the ISRO facilities. What do you think about it?
I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat?
So recently, the New Space India has been launched, right? And
Yeah.
the ISRO, like the government, is giving various opportunities to the private sectors as well to launch their own vehicles.
Yeah.
And what do you think about it?
Yeah, so this is actually a good measure because it is like privatization of space. There are many boundaries that people face if it is fixed onto a government sector. Like space privatization is something I was looking forward to since a very long time, wherein companies like Skyroot, Bellatrix, Fireflies, these are entering up into the space industries, launching their own launch vehicles. So it is something more towards the innovative sector that I have been always for. So yeah, indeed, I am surely that this is going to create a great change and creating more opportunities for the student community as well, because I see they have been passing on internships to graduates, bachelor's graduate and master's graduates. So this is something that the Indian government has been doing. I can say to privatize the space sector, or maybe to increase the innovation part in space.
What are your views about Project Artemis?
Of course, Project Artemis, it is, of course, like I have been more towards the space colonization. So Artemis is like settling onto moon and learning how to, it's like settling mankind into space. So once we're into the Artemis, that is in the moon, we'll be learning the survival techniques and we'll be learning how to survive on moon using the hab that we are planning to develop it up there. And soon, once we have enough resources available, enough data that we're getting through the Perseverance rover and everything, in within next 10 years we are planning to head up to Mars. So it's just that I call it like a practice thing, living beyond Earth. That is
Oh,
what I actually got from astronaut Alfred Walden while I was talking to him. So these were the statements made by him in International Space Development Conference, that Artemis mission is like a training program wherein astronauts will be, sent to moon. They train to live outside of Earth, and then they'll be, sent to Mars in March 2032. So these were his words, late
yeah.
Alfred Walden sir's words.
Talking about Mars, what are your views on SpaceX?
Of course, SpaceX. SpaceX has always been more towards innovation, and you can never question them, because whatever they say, they have achieved it till date, like reusability of rocket boosters or anything. And of course, like NASA has plans to send people to space by 2032, but I somewhere believe that SpaceX might solve the problem of the radiation shielding that we are currently facing, because right now the biggest problem that we have in the Mars mission is we don't know how are we going to prevent the astronauts from the radiations. And that is a biggest stop for us, because until we don't clear this thing, we are practically not ready to send anyone. For example, if we skip that part and if we still send in the astronauts will lose around 90% of their body mass, which means even if you hold up a cup, like a cup of tea, you might have multiple scratches in your hand. So that is one part that I think SpaceX should be solving by now. Like they have pretty good engineers, and Elon Musk being himself a lot creative, so curious about all these things. No
How
wonder.
is Yeah, how is it possible to grow up a human tissue in outer space? It is difficult to form a human tissue in the like on the Earth, but it is possible to form a human tissue in the ISS. Even ISS has implemented it. Why is it so?
Um, Practically, I'm not much into the biology field, but I think the gravity might be playing an important role. But I can't quote it because I know I'm not towards the astrobiology or biology sectors at all.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So NASA is planning to send various group of astronauts by very soon, and after the Artemis program, they are trying to launch a group of astronauts every now and then. So, are there any chances of you being one of the astronaut of them?
If I speak practically, then there is no chance of me being one of those astronauts. Firstly, like very first reason I can say is the citizenship, because if you want to launch from some agency such as NASA, ISRO, or JAXA, you need to be the citizen of the said country, as I mentioned those 5 points. So yeah, I can't say that I might be one of them, but surely if I somehow am able to, with this idea of uniting the space sector of all countries. If this takes place, then I might be the one. I say I might. It's just a possibility. It
Yeah,
all
yeah,
depends on the uniting.
yeah, yeah.
But of course, I would
Great.
love to work for ISRO on the Gaganyaan mission as an astronaut, because I'm an Indian citizen and I would really be proud to, launch myself from the Indian soil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So right now, even the Gaganauts are being trained at the Russian Space Agency, right?
Yeah.
Um, So what are the so you have mentioned about the G's and scuba diving and even about various trainings like involved in becoming an astronaut. But which one did you find the difficult one among all?
I can say hypoxia was somewhere difficult because hypoxia deals with your oxygen holding capacity. Like your body, for example, has 100% level of oxygen, and by 30 minutes or so, when you're at an altitude of 25,000 feet without any oxygen in your capsule, your body starts dropping your oxygen, wherein you start showing unusual symptoms such as heavy chest or cold feet. Or one of my teammates started laughing. That was her symptom. She started laughing and she couldn't stop laughing. So that is one of the most critical thing I can tell you, because you tend to lose focus after that. And even after this, I can say even difficult one could be the isolation missions, which are basically to train yourself emotionally and mentally. When you go up in space, you live with people that you don't know. There are people from various countries, such as there might be astronauts from America and Russia. So you are basically sent into a capsule or a center, a closed center for around 45 days. And there you have to live with those people that you don't know and carry out the research programs and missions for 45 days without any contact with the outer world. So that is one of the most difficult one I can tell you. Because therein you need to be emotionally and mentally fit to do that.
Yeah. You undergone various trainings, right? And are there any trainings left to like become a full-fledged astronaut, but all the trainings completed by
No,
you?
no, of course. There are various trainings still remaining, such as one of the most one is isolation training, which I'm expecting to do this year. So the one which I told you was of the mission and Hera basically. And I am planning to take up the Space Nation isolation analog astronaut training, wherein I might be doing this isolation mission for around 7 days, and slowly I'll be increasing the number of days to train myself emotionally and mentally to be fit enough to go for any space mission.
What do you think about interstellar traveling?
Interstellar traveling is something really cool. I can tell you, as soon as I started up in this space industry, the most important or most interesting factor for me was of the Kepler planets. So someday, if we are able to find out a method with which we can travel faster, then of course interstellar travel is going to help us explore various new opportunities and maybe even find out lives that or organisms or humans in some other galaxy. Who knows? Like I've
Talk,
always been fascinated with this Voyager mission and the golden record that we have sent to that maps the trajectory back to Earth. So if some intelligent species somehow finds the way back to Earth because of the Voyager mission,
talking about faster traveling, do you think ion propulsion might be working in the coming years so that we can travel faster through rockets?
um, sorry, which thing you said?
Ion
Ion
propulsion.
propulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ion propulsion is of course a feasible way to travel. I can tell you, like of course, it might be one of the possible ways we could be using up in space. I have been researching over it since a while. I have research papers published for ion propulsion, and somewhere I feel that yeah, that could be one of the methods. Like if anyone wants to read those research papers, you can type my name on Google and type in ion propulsion. You can find my research papers that are open access.
Uh, Thank you very much. Now the anchor will be taking and we can conclude.
Thank you so much, sir. This session is very informative, and you have also shared some of your experiences. I would like to thank you so much. Now, I would like to hand over this session to Vinil.
Thank you, Prerna, for hosting up this webinar. And I thank Akshat Mohit for giving his valuable time for Gita and answering all the questions. Thank you, Akshat, for being part of Gita.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I get. Thank you all for being connected this long for this webinar. I guess this is an informative session to all of you, and you can also reach out to us from the following mail, which is popping up on your screen. I also thank Professor P. Mallikarjun Rao Garu for giving this wonderful opportunity to host this platform, and also thank Professor Ramasudha ma'am and the Computer Cell for supporting us and building this wonderful Tech Talk platform. I also thank my team. Thank you, Chaitanya sir. Thank you, Gautam sir. Thank you, Rajesh sir, Mayur, and Prerna, Nitisha, and Surya as well. We will see you next on the next Sunday at the same time with a new speaker, and I hope this channel is supporting you a lot and helping you motivate, and also helping you in shaping your career as well. Do comment your views on these sessions and on this channel in the comment section below. See you next Sunday. Thank you. Good night. Jai Hind. Vande Mataram.